Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Thank you for joining us as we continue to celebrate all the amazing people working so hard to make Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, listen, literally this morning, a mental health symposium was happening at the Beau Rivage that was sponsored by Singing River Health System. You may have heard my recent conversation with Dr. MJ, who's a pediatrician at Singing River Health Systems, and Paige Roberts, the CEO of the Jackson County Chamber. It was a terrific show about how we've got to work harder to demystify and to destigmatize mental health. We should have open and honest conversations because everybody in the community is facing something. And when we have these conversations within sort of the guise of the teen suicides that we've experienced in coastal Mississippi and looking at the data across Mississippi, completely unacceptable. The work that we need to do to reduce that. Having Emma Benoit, the suicide attempt survivor, and her incredibly compelling message about hope, et cetera, to be there this morning. I just want to thank Singing River Health Systems and the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce and others that are involved in that effort, as we will continue to bring tremendous light. And, of course, SuperTalk is going to be engaged in its own suicide prevention effort that's been inspired by this effort. And we're going to be rolling it out across the state. We'll be talking more about that in the future. But if you missed a conversation with Dr. MJ and Paige Roberts, I'd really encourage you to go to YouTube or the SuperTalk Facebook page or the Ricky Matthews Show and look them up and take a listen to them. With that said, actually, I had Lauren St. Pé, who is the current CEO of Singing River Health Systems, on my show, going to be on my show, next week. And I really want to encourage you to listen. He's going to be with me Monday. And then, in fact, Jonathan Allen from J. Allen Automotive is going to be joining me. We're just going to talk about the latest as he continues to expand his dealerships. We have a terrific conversation, incidentally, about the lack of an energy policy in America and how that's really impacting auto dealers, this push to EV. It's not practical. There are mandates that have been put in place. It doesn't make any sense. And in fact, if we were to keep forward with those mandates, it's just going to open up a tremendous opportunity for the Chinese auto manufacturers. And we don't want that to happen. So look forward to having that conversation with Jonathan next Tuesday. Okay, without any further ado, let's move over to my friend Jeff Duncan, and who is a columnist for NOLA.com and the Times Picayune, and someone I really enjoy checking in with. How you doing, my friend?
Ricky, I'm recovered from Mardi Gras and Valentine's Day, so back in the flow of a regular routine.
Yeah, good for you. A lot of Mardi Gras never disappoints in New Orleans, does it?
I tell you, it turned out to be just a brilliant weather event. I mean, we kept hearing we were going to get rain, and it never really materialized. But I did feel like the crowds were a little smaller this year. And that was actually, in my opinion, kind of a good thing. They were very passionate and energetic, but weren't quite as large as normal. But man, what a great time to be in the city. And I needed 24 hours, Ricky, at my age to get back in the flow. It's not as young as it used to be.
Listen, I'm a big supporter of New Orleans. I love the city. I loved my time there and love so many people there still. I wonder if the crime news coming out of the city had some impact to people who normally would be willing to travel into the city to enjoy the Mardi Gras, if maybe they changed some of their plans around that for that reason.
Yeah, it could be the outside perception. That certainly could have an impact. It was a little bit different, time for Mardi Gras, a little bit earlier than normal. I think that could have impacted. But I do know that, the new governor, Jeff Landry, imposed new kind of public safety standards, had the state police and I think even the Department of Fish and Wildlife enforcement staff in the city. So it was a much safer Mardi Gras than we've had in the past. There still were incidents, but I think across the board, that was a very positive development going forward. That should, hopefully help turn that thing around a little bit.
Yeah, I know that when I was there in New Orleans, had conversations with Governor Edwards about that, and they had started using state police in the French Quarter, and I think that's been sort of a good commitment. And then, of course, Governor Landry is doubling down on that. He's taking it to a whole nother level because he understands, Jeff, you and I both understand this, that if we can't make the French Quarter safe, and it's just sort of like Disney World not being safe, and people, aren't going to go. And so the opportunities here to really focus our attention on keeping people as safe as possible is really important to the city. I do think it made a difference, though. You didn't see the same kind of incidences that you've seen in past Mardi Gras. I know that there's been some, but nothing like we've seen in the past.
No, I think it was a good decision overall. I think it's probably a good trial run too for future events. I mean, we have the Super Bowl here next year. We're taking the torch from Las Vegas, and this past Mardi Gras, I think, was a trial run for public safety standards and controls when you have hundreds of thousands of visitors descending upon the city at one time. I mean, there's so many people that come into New Orleans for Mardi Gras that don't even go to the parades. They're just here. Same thing for Super Bowl. They're just going to come in, go to the events around the game. So I think it's been probably, I'm sure they're evaluating how it went, and we'll use some more best practices moving forward.
Well, I thought this. Speaking of the Super Bowl, I thought that, and sort of when the Super Bowl is done, there's this formality that happens where you're literally handing the torch over to the next city, in this case, New Orleans. And I thought Gail Benson's comments were terrific. Essentially, we know how to do big events, and I was there during the last Super Bowl. It was just an incredible memory to participate in that. You and I have talked about that before on the show. But city's ready, and for people who don't fully appreciate the kind of multi-year planning and effort around that, it's they can't fully appreciate what it takes to pull it off, can they?
No, I mean, look, Jay Cicero, the head of the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation, his staff, they're kind of the point people along with the entire host committee here. They've been working for years to plan for this. Now, we got a little bit of an extra year out of it because when the league went to the 17-game schedule, I'm not sure how many of your listeners or viewers know this, but we were supposed to have this year's Super Bowl here. And when the league went to 17-game schedule, it pushed the regular season schedule back a week, and that was going to push the Super Bowl into Mardi Gras. We know we could never have those two events at the same time, so it forced us to kind of abandon the 2024 game, move it back a year to next year, and Las Vegas stepped into the fold. So, and look, Las Vegas did a tremendous job. I mean, I wrote about this week. I mean, they hired Sam Joffrey away from the New Orleans Super Bowl host committee staff because they'd never put on a Super Bowl before, and they wanted someone with experience. So they went to New Orleans to get Sam, who's a New Orleans native. And Sam did a great job by all accounts. I mean, they did an incredible job out there. There's still some snafus. It was their first Super Bowl ever. I heard traffic gridlock was a nightmare, some safety issues as well. But overall, I think it was a big hit, and I expect the league to be back in Vegas in the future.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Las Vegas is a great place to have a Super Bowl. They got a lot of hotel rooms there. They have so much entertainment. The big story of this is the big story every Super Bowl, is a number of celebrities to participate. But that whole notion of celebrities was on a whole nother plane in Las Vegas as they just poured in there, spending ungodly amounts of money to have their own boxes or to take care of their family and friends. I mean, the stories coming out of Las Vegas to how many millions and millions of dollars spent during those couple of days just by celebrities is incredible. But that's just the way it is, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, look, and they're uniquely positioned because of their inherent hospitality industry. Look, they have 150,000 hotel rooms in Vegas. I mean, compare that to New Orleans. New Orleans is a big hotel city, and we've got like 35,000. So it's extraordinary, the capacity that city has to put on an event like this. So I expect they're going to be a part of the rotation going forward. I wrote about that this week. I mean, it's getting more competitive when you add in L.A. to the mix with SoFi Stadium, now Vegas. And I'm telling you, Ricky, Nashville, when they build their new stadium downtown, $2 billion stadium right on the river, that city has become a boom town. They're going to compete for Super Bowls. So I just think it's going to be a once every decade type event for New Orleans. And we've got to raise our game here. And we are, but we've got to compete for these big events like Sugar Bowls, BCS title games, because it's getting harder and harder. You have to have, it's all about the Benjamins, as they say, and it's a very expensive business to be in.
Hey, listen, we're talking about New Orleans as it relates to the Super Bowl, but let's pull the aperture out a bit and remind everybody that when the Saints in general is all about the Gulf South, from, say, Pensacola generally to the Texas line, and you can go north as far as you want to go. But the reality is a lot of people pay attention to the Saints generally anyway. It's a regional team. But when you have the Super Bowl, what that Sugar Bowl included, but Super Bowl sort of in a class by itself, what that does to create a shot in the arm for coastal Mississippi is absolutely dramatic, because they, as Jeff pointed out, they don't have enough hotels rooms in New Orleans to house everybody. So a lot of folks stay in coastal Mississippi. You got Harrah's and the Caesars in the heart of downtown New Orleans, and then of course you've got one over here. The collaboration that happens between the two, I could just go on and on and on, but it's going to be really important to us as well. Hey, when we come back on the other side, Jeff actually broke a story yesterday about training camp. I want to hear what he's hearing about that, and we'll tell you specifically about this effort for the Saints to move out west. Not a bad move. We'll see you more after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I have my friend Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times Picayune. And you listen, I knew this about Jeff when I was in New Orleans. Knew it before I got to New Orleans. Certainly continue to have that reaffirmed that he was the guy that was going to break a lot of important stories. He has, I would put his sources up against anybody else's. He leads the conversation. He constantly is breaking news. And once again, he breaks the news that the Saints are expected to move to training camp out west, something he's sort of known about for a while, but he's finally able to put together the sources and do a story around it. I think that's a great move, but why don't you give him some details about what you reported?
Yeah, we broke it this morning, Ricky. We've known that they were moving training camp somewhere this year because they have a construction project, a renovation project, really, on their indoor training facility and their cafeteria. The cafeteria, they've just outgrown it. The building was built, 15, 20 years ago, and they've added so much staff, not only in taking on the Pelicans operations, but also internally, to where they need a larger cafeteria. And so in renovating that project, it's adjacent to the indoor facility. It's going to force them to go somewhere because they have to feed hundreds of staff during training camp, 3 meals a day, if you will. They have to have an indoor facility because of the possibility of inclement weather, as we all know, in the Gulf South during August and July. So they've been on the scouting mission for the last few months and really settled on kind of Orange County, California, which if you've been out to L.A., it's the southern county right below L.A. They've trained out there in the past for a week or so with the Chargers in Costa Mesa and are familiar with the area. They know the hotels. They know the grid of traffic, and very like obviously the Southern California weather. And so they're going to go to Irvine, California, which is just 3 miles down the road from where the Chargers trained. It's where the Los Angeles Rams have trained since they moved to L.A. And the Rams now have abandoned that site because they have their own training site at their headquarters now. That construction project is completed. So they're going to move to their headquarters. So they have an open NFL-ready facility in Irvine. This is where teams that come in for the Rose Bowl practice, the Rams had camp there, other teams have had camp. So it's an NFL-ready facility. And obviously it's not great for local fans that want to come to camp here and see the Saints, but there's really nothing team officials can do. They have to move the camp somewhere. And I think the familiarity with Orange County and Irvine and just the conditions getting out of this heat, we documented last year, Ricky, they had so many soft tissue injuries training in this heat here. I personally believe it's not a good move. I mean, when the Saints first started in 1967, their inaugural 2-3 seasons, they trained in San Diego. John Meekum knew they needed to get out of here during training camp and get into a more clement weather condition. And the Saints have always kind of straddled that decision because they want to be here for the fans, but they also want to have a safe and injury-free camp as best possible. It's expensive to do, so I don't think this is going to be more than just a one-year decision, but it definitely is going to be in Irvine this year.
Hey, listen, as a small world category, my son Justin works for Price Waterhouse in New York City, and his girlfriend Lauren's father is I think I had this right. The CEO of the Orange County Chamber. So small world. Be interesting. Maybe I'll have him on at some point and see what he thinks about the Saints coming to town, even if it's for a year. It'd be interesting to hear his perspective. But you know what's interesting? Boy, that cafeteria needed to be renovated. I remember it well, and it was kind of a basic cafeteria. And when you compare it to what other NFL teams have, boy, that was sorely needed, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's no question. This is part of the life cycle of an NFL franchise. I mean, the Saints have just this past offseason renovated their scouting department, and they've kind of got a high-tech situation now for their scouts. They're using it this year for the first time. This is the next project on the site, and they're doing it all with their own money, so there's no public money there. But they built that indoor training facility with some public funds. So they understand the responsibility and to some degree even an obligation to have camp for the fans. They just can't do it this year. They'll be back here, I'm sure, after next season. I say that, but heck, if the team goes 17-0 next year, you know how people are about about momentum and good luck charms. Maybe they feel like Irvine will be their good luck charm.
Hey, when Jim Amos and I went over to visit with Tom and Gail Benson and Dennis Lashow and Mickey Loomis. After the meeting, Mickey took us over to his office to show, I've told you about this before, the new balcony overlooking the training facility. But, my thought was, we were really proud of it, but it's been a process of getting everything in terms of the physical structure of that place at a standard that is that of a first class, NFL team. Of course, you don't do it overnight, but they've been really focused on that. The facility really, in a day of free agency, I wonder if it really makes a difference, but it certainly can't hurt to have a first class facility. Don't you think?
Right. Yeah. Look, and I think the Saints do have a great facility, and but they have to keep modernizing it all the time. They've worked on the training. They've tried to prioritize the areas of the building that affect performance on the field. So they've renovated the training room there internally. The locker rooms have all been renovated. A lot of the meeting rooms have been renovated. So this is next on the list, but they wanted to prioritize the players and coaches, which makes a lot of sense to me going forward. But this is going to be nice. The indoor facility is also has been kind of a bare basic facility. They have to have it because of the inclement weather we have here. But they're going to actually be able to build like a second story onto the cafeteria that's adjacent to where now Mickey Loomis, Saints staff, different VIPs, maybe even media. I've put in my request for media to have a viewing area above the indoor facility, because as it is right now, there's nowhere to sit. There's not enough room for bleachers in there. You can't really get a good angle to see practice. You're on the field level. It's hard to see anything. So they're going to have a viewing area as well there in this new renovation project.
Yeah, it actually is quite tight. Yeah, I remember that well. Everybody has to stand and observe. Yep. So that would make a really good, I think that would make a really good advancement for that. Hey, listen, it's official now. Clint Kubiak is our offensive coordinator. The offensive staff starting to come together. Been a lot of contemplation about what the changes in the team might be, but it's good to have it official, and it's good to see the offensive staff coming together, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, Kubiak comes with a great reputation. His father, Gary, longtime head coach and offensive coordinator in the NFL, highly regarded offensive mind. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of influence from his father in there. He spent a year in the 49ers system. I'm most interested, I've told you this before, interested to see what his vision is for the offense here. I'm not 100% sure, and I could be wrong about this. I've been wrong before plenty of times, but I'm not 100% sure they're going to just come in and put the 49ers offense in. I think it's going to be something of what they've been running, modernized with some of the things that have influenced Kubiak over the years. I mean, he only spent 1 year with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, so I think there's going to be a little bit of a meshing of what they've been doing with some things he wants to implement. Derek Carr, obviously, you have to build everything around his strengths, hide his weaknesses. And I think this offensive system is one of the things that Derek Carr knows well. He's worked in the same system for years. I'd be surprised if McKinney just completely overhauled it at this stage when everyone's been working in this system for a while now.
Hey, there's been some speculation. One of the things they're going to do is work harder to get the ball out of his hands faster. But you've said before that's something we've got to be focused on anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a part of every offensive system in the league, I think. You want there's studies done. You just look at the numbers. When Derek Carr throws the ball 2.4 seconds or left, his completion percentage is higher, his rating's higher, his touchdown to interception ratio higher. But that's true of every quarterback in the league. And every defense is trying to make you hold the ball longer. So that's their whole point. So it's always a little bit of a cat and mouse game in that regard. But look, I think it's going to be nice to have some fresh ideas in the building. I think people have been wanting that. Fans have been wanting it. And Clint Kubiak brings that.
There's, of course, it all remains to be seen. It's all talk until it happens. But there really is, if you just sort of look across the lay of the land, a real positive, mood about Clint. I mean, you see that, don't you?
Yeah, look, he's worked under some great coaches, Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't know this. I'm trying to get a hold of Gary Kubiak, but wouldn't surprise me if Gary Kubiak came to camp and served as like an observer, this year. He's on a ranch over in Texas. He's not far away. That's really the connection. Was Clint's father, Gary Kubiak, was a former Texas A&M quarterback, Texas A&M guy. Dennis Allen played at Texas A&M too, so there's a lot of connections there with the families. And Clint, I think, was the kind of guy the Saints needed to target, a young, ascending type of coach, someone that's looking for an opportunity, ambitious, and that certainly fits the mold with Clint Kubiak. And he's worked in so many successful offensive systems. I think he's going to be able to kind of mold this offense to a lot of the things that have been working and bring in his own ideas to kind of make it better.
Hey, listen, we got hardly no time left. But Pelicans, real quick, what's your thoughts on where they are?
Well, look, they're 11 games over 500, the best record at the All-Star break since 2009. So I think you have to be optimistic. They have 27 games left, I think, Ricky, and most of those are at home. So I think it's very positive right now, the way things are going. They have to keep improving. I was surprised they didn't make a deal at the break, but I think they like where they're at, and certainly exciting to see them winning games now and showing us a little more consistency.
Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and Times Picayune, thanks for checking in with us, man. I really appreciate you.
All right, Ricky. We'll talk next week, buddy.
You bet. JT Mitchell from SuperTalk Mississippi News will join us after the break. We'll see you after.